Happy weekend to all, and with that, Zur has of course come with the reset again. Now, I just want to warn, he does have a few items that are worth it, but some that are a little bit more accessible in other means, at least during Festival Lost, so keep that in mind when looking at his stock. Going into the front page, there is two catalysts right off the bat, one quite useful, the other recently reworked. The first is the Acrius catalyst, which, if I recall, isn't available in the wild, even possibly now. So, I could be wrong, this might be one of those many ones that was added to strike playlists and other ritual activities. However, I would just recommend getting it now, because it is a very nifty perk. It expands the magazine size from 2 shots to 6, not to mention it also gains Trench Barrel, which, considering how hard this shotgun shoots already, a Trench Barrel buff of what I believe is about 20%, is quite powerful. It is one of the top damage dealers for anything that is in close range, especially in raids and endgame content. The next is the Huckleberry catalyst, which was recently reworked. It used to partially reload the magazine and give it Ambitious Assassin, then it was full reloads on the magazine on kill, and now that is an intrinsic part of the gun, and it now provides kinetic tremors, which it is pretty nifty on top of everything. They keep just adding to Huckleberry over the years. I imagine it's just because it is just a gun, the gun, by the end of the day. But aside from that, it is a very solid choice if you are just looking for a fun gun. The next in terms of armor, starting with 8 Eon Swift, it is an interesting piece of armor. 8 Eons is always something powerful, and it has an interesting stat distribution as mobility and discipline are the lowest, considering hunters, I think, use some of that the most. But I would say this is definitely something worth picking up, at least if you need a better pair, of 8 Eons. Otherwise, move on, because, you know, you might be able to get a better pair, or at least more more mobility. God, I am just all over the place with words today. Next is the Severance Enclosure, which, while the stats are well-rounded and maybe not the best for any sort of focus build, an all-arounder could certainly be worth it, and Severance recently has actually been a fan favorite of mine. Recently, just because of a specific build that took heavy use of it. It was a finisher melee-based build, so it definitely had its time in the sun, plus combining that with a few other bits, it is certainly more useful than once upon a time when, during Shadowkeep, I thought it was practically useless. The next, speaking of useless, at least to PvE players, Transversive Steps. It is mostly focused on PvP in the idea. You get buff sprint speed, and when you're sprinting, you reload your weapons, and I believe you have increased movement speed while crouched. It is a lot of the stats or benefits that would definitely benefit the PvP crowd most, although I know some people take advantage of this as a sprinting reload is usually handy for damage rotations in terms of endgame content, so just keep that in mind. The next is, I imagine, class items for all 3 different characters. So again, if you wanted to farm it out, you could get 2 from a full inventory of strange coins, but keep in mind the Festival of the Lost, I imagine, is a easier farm for strange coins for class items flat out. So keep that in mind. You don't have to go hard here when you could go hard in Festival and have a better time at current. And then next on the gear, we have the usual exotic of Hawk Moon, this time with quick draw, with full bore for maximum range, as well as combat grip for recoil control. So it does have a bit of range to it, but at the same time, I do believe rangefinder is still an option. So if you want the maximum range, that is probably what you're going to be able to hope for in terms of Hawk Moon, full bore, and rangefinder. Next is the Crimson. If you know Red Death, you know Crimson, because this is basically the hand cannon version of it, just kinetic this time around, where it fires in a 3-round burst for a hand cannon, the only one of its type, as well as the Cruel Remedy perk where kills will heal and precision kills will reload. So think Huckleberry, but it heals and it has to be a pulse rifle, but also a hand cannon. I know, it sounds weird. Next is Borealis, which is an element shifter, which if you don't know what that means, it can rotate between all 3 light elements. It can be void, solar, or arc, and when it switches between, it gets benefits based on the element. The solar gets increased reload speed and aerial effectiveness, arc gets handling and range, while void gets stability and aim assist. So in case you want to take this in Crucible and have a benefit to your stats in that idea. This is intended as a anti-shield weapon, as basically it has a perk where breaking combatant shield will reload the magazine, and if you match the element of the shield, you will get a full magazine of reloaded rounds of bonus damage. It is a solid sniper. It is an odd one because it is an aggressive frame and has more base ammo than any other rifle in its class, but it also is one of those ones that kind of falls by the wayside. It's useful, but its usefulness is kind of overburdened, or overshadows, I should say. But again, it is a solid enough rifle. Next is the Thunderlord, something that keeps coming back around because it is just sustained damage. It is anti-overload. Its hits will eventually start lightning strikes for bonus damage. The faster you, or the longer you shoot, the faster it fires, and the faster it fires, the more rapid the lightning strikes become. In addition to Feeding Frenzy and just being an overall excellent gun for both DPS if you have nothing better, and just add clearing potential, Thunderlord is definitely one I would recommend for anyone looking for excessive armory choices. But with that, going into the main weapons, there's a lot of things here that can be crafted, so just firing through them quickly. The Blood Feud Stasis Aggressive Frame Submachine Gun, craftable. The Nightshade Strand Lightweight Pulse Rifle from the Strike playlist. The Decide Void Rapid Fire Frame Shotgun. The Brigand's Law Arc Rapid Fire Sidearm, also craftable. Plank Stride Rapid Fire Arc Machine Gun, also craftable. And Semio Tactician, a Strand High Impact Frame Rocket Launcher, also craftable. Then I imagine we also have the variety of class swords, as it seems like almost always. And as well, we have our range of legendary armor. This time it seems to be Faction Rally based out of the Future War Cult armor that was rebranded during Season of the Worthy. With that, that is everything Zur is currently offering, and of course he is here till reset, so get everything you need while you can. But I will now see you in the next video.